Heads up, no. It was coming.
Yeah, is that what you guys talked about tonight?
One of the many things.
Okay.
We can't be like the guy who's supposed to.
All right, looks like we've got the on-air sign. If I can, I'll bring the meeting to order here. At this time, we will have an invocation by former council member Dale Louderback, who's doing that tonight, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Cody Branham. For the record, this is the October 27th Xenia City Council regular meeting. If you could all please rise for the invocation.
I'm not Andy Wagner, but I think the turnout here might have been for me tonight.
Yeah, thanks.
Those who choose, bow your heads, please. Sure. Heavenly Father, I come to you tonight, recognize you as the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the fairest of 10,000, the bright and morning star. I thank you for this opportunity to pray before a city council meeting. This is a long-term tradition of this city of Xenia and city council, and I pray, hope and pray that it never ends. And I would like to thank the panel before me for all your dedication and your love for the city of Xenia. So I pray that everything that's said and done here tonight will glorify my Lord and Savior. I ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
All right, everybody, welcome. We've not had a crowd like this in quite a while. Sorry if we're out of seats, but you're welcome to try to slide in there wherever you can. At this time, I'm going to call the meeting to order and bring to your attention, we do have a lot of Go Buck signs. If you haven't been following, Xenia High School football team is 10-0. 10 wins,
Yes.
0 losses. They have a playoff game tomorrow at Doug Adams Stadium here in Xenia at 7 o'clock. So, in spirit of that, yes, congratulations to Xenia High School. So, in honor of the spirit of that, we're a little casual today, wearing our Xenia gear, just to give support to our local school. And again, phenomenal job. And their wins, with the exception of one, was within one score. They're phenomenal. They're just winning by leaps and bounds. So what a good thing. So at this time, I'm going to ask our clerk to do a roll call, please.
Vice President Urschel.
Here.
Councilman Scriven.
Here.
Councilwoman Dean. Here. Councilman Branham.
Here.
Councilman Dean.
Here.
Mayor Mays.
Here.
President Smith.
Here. On the agenda is the approval of minutes from the October 13th, 2022 regular meeting. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Dean. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by the mayor. Any additions, corrections, notations? All right, seeing none, we'll enter that into the record. With the roll call, please.
Vice President Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Scriven.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Abstain.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we have no special presentation scheduled for tonight, so we will move right into audience comments. So this is the opportunity in our meeting for anyone that would care to come and address City Council. Just keep in mind that this is not a debate. We do not normally answer questions from the floor, but there will be a period at the end of the meeting that the city manager may answer that question for you. So if anyone would care to come to the podium at this time, give us your name and address. Due to the volume of people, we'll ask you to keep your comments 2 to 3 minutes, please.
I'm Steve Nickerson. I live at 943 Cannondale. I'm here to speak against any changes to the PUD. In the last year, you're probably aware the ownership of the complex has changed. We now have an absentee owner whose interest is probably making profit Our prior owner had a deep community rooting, and took extremely good care of our common area. And that has happened absolutely not at all this year. The only common area maintenance has been done by the residents, nothing by the developer. We have about 170 houses out there right now. Your last action added to the PUD, I think about 80, maybe 90, which is now available, I guess, for construction. And in the undeveloped area of the original PUD, there's about 200 more lots out there, all of them much bigger than what we have. We don't need greater density. That's the last thing we need. I live in one of those, the patio homes, so certainly I don't want it to be any more dense than that. But all the original owners, and I'm an original owner, I've been there 18 years now, I didn't buy in thinking that we were going to have a complex of little houses. It just concerns me that this is the first major change, I think, since the last approval for the PUD work, which got rid of some of the commercial, made them residential. Some of us think that it made some of them too small, but that's been what's done. If you approve greater density now, I'm concerned about what happens to the next half of the project with the density then. I mean, the last thing we want is multifamily. We don't want apartments. We don't want any more high density stuff. We think that drives our property value down. And that's why I'm against it. And I was going to ask somebody later, but maybe somebody will answer after the meeting. I wonder if the owner has some obligation to maintain common area until more of the complex is developed. Phillips did a great job with common area maintenance. Our entrances were pretty, they were trimmed well, they were attractive. We have a nice little private community down there that almost nobody knows about except on Halloween. And we'd like to keep it that way. We don't want 500 or 600 more vehicles coming in and out of there every day. So that's all I've got.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right. Who else would care to come to the floor at this time?
Yes, my name is Bobby Gayhart. I live at 906 Cannondale Avenue. Yes, I have lived there for 2 years. This is a community that most of the people here would tell you that they love their community. Almost on a weekly basis, and this is no lie, I see people driving up and down those roads wanting to buy one of those properties in there. I have had numerous realtors come up to my house when I'm sitting out on the front porch and wanting to give me their card because they have people that would like to move in that community. And that sounds like I'm like really selfish. Well, maybe I am selfish because I love that community. One issue that I have, which the gentleman that spoke just before me, was that the common area has absolutely gone to pot. And it's not just the appearance of having a bad common area, but the main issue I have with it, I have seen lots of animals, stray animals in the area because of the high weeds and the high grass. I have seen different kind of animals like you would see in the woods that I never saw before. Possums, raccoons, rabbits, all kinds of different animals just all around the community, digging holes in the yard, all kinds of things, where if that common area was kept up the way it should be, that would go away. Now that sounds like I'm really petty, but you know, I would like to keep the community nice like it is now. Also, I am wondering, and I have a concern like the gentleman that spoke just before me, what's next? You know, we present these really nice houses that we're going to build, and all of a sudden we want to go to a smaller lot. Is that because evidently because we want to build more houses? Okay, another issue is Are we gonna change the style of houses? Is that the next thing that's gonna come up? And that's a concern, because the houses in the community are like really nice, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to live in a community that's nice. That's not a bad thing, and I think most of you would agree with that. Anyway, go Xenia.
All right, cool. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby.
All right, keep it coming. Who else would like to come to the podium at this time?
I'll jump up here for a couple minutes. My name is Ed Bell. We live at 2234 Schwinn Avenue, and our property backs up immediately. We've got one of the alleys that runs down behind our house, and then that's where the new development is going to be. I'm on the board of directors, and I don't know that any of us have a huge problem with a few more houses if that's what they want to do. Several of us have talked to Mr. Needleman, and he has supposedly assured us from this point on that he's going to start taking really good care of the common area. And I know it's a huge issue with all of us. I think we've all been up there and pulled some weeds and did this and that and another. One of the reasons we haven't done a lot, because we don't want to set a precedence to where Mr. Needleman thinks if he doesn't do it, the community will. So, again, he's pretty much assured us that he's going to start taking care of this, and it's going to be blah, blah, blah. That we'll see. We've got 5 houses, with three actually going up now, and they're on High Wheel. Mike Jolly builder, he's building houses up there. And I think we can all be pretty assured that the quality of the houses are going to be good. And I haven't seen the plat restrictions and the covenants. I'd love to see them. Matter of fact, I was up earlier today and tried to get a hold of some of them, and I guess that's not available till this is approved. So, but as I understand it, it's going to be, they're going to do a good job, and remember, whatever the builder does, it behooves him to do a good job and to keep our subdivision looking good. That's what sells houses, and that's what brings quality people and so on and so forth there. So I know we're all we're really concerned. I am. We've been there. This is our second house. We built a house on Lakeview initially, and then we built a smaller house over here. And but again, I think number one, I don't think anything with the economy and everything. I don't think anything's going to be done for quite a while. And the builder have to remember that the developer, he has to go out and spend. He's probably going to spend $1.5 million to $2 million before he builds that first house. So they're gonna make sure it's a going concern and a good development. I think that's what's going to happen. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Who else would care to come?
Oh, yes, thank you. Good evening. My name is Dr. Greta Mayer, and I'm Chief Executive Officer of Mental Health Recovery Board of Clark, Greene, and Madison counties. And I just wanted to educate you about a ballot issue that's countywide in support of mental health in Greene County. And so I work for Mental Health Recovery Board of Clark, Greene, and Madison County, but this issue is for Greene County residents only. It's a straight renewal, no new taxes. And what it means is for a property, a homeowner of valuation of $100,000, it's less than $30 a year. And that translates to about less than $2.50 a month to continue the critical level of services that we have in place. This goes for prevention services in school for our young people. It goes to support adults and supportive housing and employment supports for individuals with mental health concerns, and treatment access, including crisis services that we know we need more of. So we've been able over the last 10 years to lock in this 1.5 mil property tax levy, and we pledged to lock it in for 10 more years for Greene County residents. And we've gone after additional state and federal dollars so we can keep those taxes low and use the local revenue as a last resort to keep that going. So we work very closely with law enforcement and first responders. Sheriff Anger has been on our board. We have an 18-member volunteer board and many other members in Greene County representing all the areas that have a passion for this work and knowledge and expertise to help us move our mission forward. We have increased access to care by 44% over the last 5 years. We have 13 contract care providers that are based in Greene County, many of whom are in Xenia, and they provide those access to critical care. So your handout outlines some of the ones you may recognize. So I appreciate the ability to talk with you this evening, and I just wanted to open up, share my contact information, Greta Mayer, and I'm happy to answer any questions after or via email or anytime that you may have. So really appreciate the long-standing support that we've had from residents, and encourage you to, get the facts before you go to vote. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor.
Okay. Just keep in mind, we're still in audience comments.
Yeah, you can talk first if you want, and then come back.
My name's Greg Richardson. I live at 2100 Lakeview Drive down in Wright Cycle with a lot of these people. I'm totally sympathetic to all the problems with the common area. Many of you I've talked to. Okay, I've done a lot of conversation.
Sir, I'm going to ask you just to come to the podium, and can we get a mic on him? Do we have
There
one?
should be one active there if he gets up.
Okay.
Can you hear? Now I
speak
think
up.
I can hear. Okay. So, like I said, I understand all the issues, and the last week I've done a lot of conversations here with the city, okay, with Judd and with Mr. Barker, okay, and reviewing the code and the policies and all that kind of stuff, okay? And unfortunately, I think a lot of the problems could be resolved if the city would work with our community, because I think a lot of the codes could be improved. From what I learned from Judd and Frank is Fred, is that what unfortunately Bernard's doing, we may hate, and I think we all are here because we hate it. But unfortunately, it meets the minimums, and in an existing development, like he said, there's lots of things coming out of these fields, okay? Actually, where the corn and soybeans are planted is taken care of better than the common area, okay? So I would like to propose at some point, I used to be on the board, but I'm not anymore, okay? Is that the city work with the established homeowners association that's headed by John Martin, Ed's on it, maybe talk to some other people, and get some ideas as to how we can protect the community better. Because, like he said, it's brought in everything. I got people that now have snakes that never had snakes before, okay? So I would suggest that, because I think it needs to be tightened. Plus, another thing that I learned in talking with the city, the entrances, where if you're familiar with Wright Cycle, the southern entrance, the bigger entrance, okay, where Brad Phillips put the nice wall and the bike and all that. At one time this year, it was like a jungle there, okay? In talking to the city, I found out that the city doesn't have any rules in relationship to that. None, okay? And the reason they don't have any rules is because, our interest is going to be different than Country Club of the North and this and that, whatever. And they don't want to get involved in all that kind of stuff. I totally understand. And I think every developer should have whatever they want to put for an entrance. But I think the city could help us if whatever they put up there, they are then responsible to just maintain it. And if we don't have the manpower to do it, which I understand and all that other kind of stuff, then I still think the city could outsource it to another company to do and still build the developer to do it. So I think there's ideas like that if you work with our board and our community, we could help you so that, because like I said, I moved there because it's a great community. I live on the lake, I love it, okay? And I want to keep it that way. And I will say, I lived 30 years on the East Coast, in Philly, Baltimore, worked on 100 Wall Street. The East Coast perceives things different than Xenia, Ohio. Okay? So, and that's not Bernard's fault, but that's just a reality. Okay? So, I hope he does follow through and take care of some of this stuff, but I also think in the future, there's some things we could do working with you guys to tighten it up so our community in the future and new communities don't have to get exposed to this, because it's been disappointing, it really has. That's all I
All
gotta
right,
say.
thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson.
Anyone else care to come to the podium at this time?
I'm Becky Graham. I'm at 907 Wright Avenue. I am on the board. I just want to clarify one thing that Greg said, primarily for the audience. We do not have a homeowners association at Wright Cycle Estates.
Right.
We have a neighborhood organization of people that volunteered to be on the board to try to make our community as nice as it could be. But we have no authority.
Right.
And we have no leverage at all because we do not have a homeowners association. And the majority of the residents expressed that they do not want a homeowners organization, which would give us leverage. So I just want to clarify that.
All right, thank you, Becky.
Thank you, Ms.
All
Graham.
right. Anyone else care to come to the podium at this time?
Hi, I'm Marcia Porter. I live at 1935 Lakeview Drive. And I have a couple questions, okay? I understand that the lake used to be owned by the builder, and now it's owned by the city. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay, so if the city can own the lake in that area, why can't they own the common areas? That's just a question, I don't understand, okay? And then the other thing, my other comment is that dealing with density, right now, I love my house, okay? But I could look at my neighbor's window and look right into their house. I don't need to be any closer. So if you're building houses closer, you know, even if it's by like 9 inches or whatever, it's gonna be 9 inches on each side, so it's gonna be more, you know, foot, you know, more than 2 feet or whatever. It's going to increase closeness, and that's an issue. I mean, that's a privacy issue. So that's all I have.
Great, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Porter.
Who else would care to come to the podium at this time?
I'm Paul Schlomer. I live at 1999 Lakeview Drive. There is a plan for the Wright Cycle Estates, and I would like us to follow that plan unless there's a compelling reason to change it. So if there's a safety issue or something, I understand making changes, but absent that, we've got a plan, let's follow it.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Sloman.
Anyone else care to come to the podium at this time? On any issue? All right, are we done?
Wait a second, I have one more comment. Thinking about,
You have to come to the podium, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Thinking about the density, if somebody has a smaller house, has a smaller property line, wouldn't it also make it harder for them to, let's say if they wanted to extend onto their house? You know, their family size is just increasing, and it would be cheaper to build on than it would to be buying a new house. Well, now they've got a smaller area to build in, and they'd have to come up before you guys and say, hey, can I have an, what do you call it?
Variance.
Yes. And if you have a bigger property area, you're not gonna have to go through that. So that's another issue. with having smaller property.
Thank you.
Quick comment.
Thank you, Ms. Porter.
Most of our houses
Sir, you
are
can't
built.
say
Yeah, folks, we're a little out of order here, so I'll have you come
Most
to
of
the
our
podium.
houses are built on the property lines, our right hand and our left hand property line, and of course our setback. And there are limitations, that's what you can do in the back. So adding on to these becomes almost impossible. But I do see your point, but most of them are built right on the property lines, or close to. And again, know that right cycle and everybody has to follow the regulations. And if it's a 10-foot wide side yard, then that's what they gotta be. And so you can't build into that side yard, for sure.
Or back behind it.
Exactly, right. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So, if there's no one else coming to the podium? All right, so we're gonna move on to old business. Our first item at old business is ordinance 2022-40. This is a public hearing. However, in case you don't have your agenda here, this is enacting chapters 219, 220, 221, 222, 223, 224, 231, 233, and 234, and enacting sections 23201 to 23203, amending sections 23001 and 23003, repealing in their entirety chapters 236, 246, and 248, and section 230.04 of the Administrative Code, as contained in Part 2 of City Government, Titled 6, Administrative Code of the Xenia City Code. So this is a different item. Just wanted you to be aware of that. Okay. This was introduced by Mayor Mays at 10/13/22, which was our last meeting. So at this time, I will open the public hearing on this item and ask anyone if they would care to speak in favor of making these amendments to come to the podium at this time. Okay. If anyone would care to come and speak against amending these sections and enacting these chapters, now's your opportunity to do so. All right, see no one come forward. At this time, I've closed the public hearing on this item and introduce any questions from City Council. Okay, and we do have introduction by the mayor.
Thank you, I'll move for passage, sir.
Thank you. Move for passage by the mayor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by the vice president. This time I'll get a roll call, please.
Vice President Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean. Aye. Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Our next item under old business is ordinance 2022-41. This is also titled a public hearing. This is amending section 618.11, which is titled hunting in the Xenia City Code. This was introduced by Councilwoman Dean at our last meeting. And what I'll do at this time, I will open the floor on the public hearing and ask if anyone would care to speak in favor of amending the section of our code to come to the podium at this time.
Mr. Vaughn.
Hi, my name is Jeff Vaught. I live at 991 Meadow Lane. About, I don't know, 12 or odd years ago, I bought a parcel that was behind my house, had been delinquent for years. The city had been, mowing, constantly mowing it. It was, it'd get mowed 3 times a year. It's mostly in weeds, it's derelict, mostly floodplain. It backs up to Shawnee Creek, just, right by Green Memorial Hospital. So, over the last 10 years, we tried to improve that property. I've had almost every neighbor on the street thank me for buying it and doing what I've done. And, we put thousands of dollars worth of trees back there. And, I think it's gotten worse probably as the years go on, but last week I counted 22 deer back there, and I've given some pictures to the city manager and hopefully some film footage that had come through where like there was probably 18 or 20, like literally in the backyard, like almost on the back porch. But again, we planted thousands of dollars worth of trees back there. We've done all of the conventional. I've tried to buy things that are deer resistant, and like things that supposedly they don't like. I can tell you, there isn't anything that a deer does not like. We go back. Most of the trees sit too far from the property. We bought an ATV to haul water back so we can water them. We fertilize them. We put chicken wire around the more expensive trees. They destroy the chicken wire. If they can get their mouth on a part of the tree, they'll get a hold of it and break it off. Or the bucks, they'll just take their antlers when they're losing the felt, and they'll completely kill a tree. They'll rub all the bark off all the way around it. And there was a time right before I called the city manager or emailed. I went back there and they had destroyed 3 trees that we've been nursing for 3 or 4 years. You watch them grow. You go back there, and in a single night, they'll just absolutely kill, a tree that you've been working on for years. And like literally, I'm a grown 52-year-old man, and it has me in tears. I mean, literally, And I'm not a hunter personally, but there's some responsible people that I could bring in. There's again, this was a part of a almost 6-acre parcel. There's another 5-acre parcel behind that. That goes into Pinecrest, which is a large parcel. Then it bleeds into WGC Golf Course. So it's a wide area of land, and I can tell you that these deer are migrating into the city. We were walking a couple weeks ago, my wife and I. As soon as it gets dark, we've seen 3 or 4 deer over on Monroe, which is 3 streets over. I've seen them in the I've seen them activate the hospital's emergency door on the emergency room in their parking lot in broad daylight. I mean, and I have talked to ODNR several times, and they are very aware that there is a population problem in our area. So just, this is kind of like on paper, it's kind of a bizarre thing, but I wanted to kind of let you all know where it come from. I think that there's been some other complaints as well, but just kind of what I was up against, and I hope you consider this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vaught. Appreciate that. Anyone else care to come to the podium and speak in favor of amending section 618? Okay. We are in a public hearing. If anyone would care to come forward and speak against amending section 618.11, titled Hunting, now's your opportunity to do so. All right. Seeing no one come forward at this time, I'll close the public hearing on this item. And we did have an introduction by Councilwoman Dean at our last meeting.
I would like to move for passage.
Thank you. Move for passage by Councilwoman Dean. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilman Branham. Do we have any questions or concerns from any of our council members?
Mr. President, I guess, as we spoke about last time, once again, and Greg, like you mentioned, there's this periphery band around the city, right, where when you're next to the township, especially when the township is all agricultural or forest, and this isn't necessarily an internal part of the problem in the city, that you suffer the same issues the folks that may have 100 acres or 50 acres or whatever else out there have, right? But it's just that they have the right to address this, right, during the hunting season. And we also spoke about the fact that folks who are going to be doing any hunting are going to have the tags from the state, comply with the ODNR rules, plus also get a special tag or provision from our city police. We're not looking to have people doing bow hunting on an eighth of an acre here downtown, right? This is going to be, but it's in consideration of the folks that are living on the periphery of the city that are dealing with this issue. So yeah. So anyways, man, I'm all in favor of this for you guys, and I know our police chief has looked at this and feels like this is something appropriate, for us to do. And so we'll start off and see how we get going with this. Once again, we're just looking at bow hunting. This isn't going to be any other weapons that are going to be allowed within the context of that. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Mr. Vaught, I do understand your concerns. I fully get what you're getting at. This year, I garden every year. Okay, this year, 12th year gardening. First time ever tomato plants. It looked like someone took hedge trimmers right across the garden, and it was deer that ate the tops. I've never seen it before, so the problem is getting worse. I do agree with that. So anyone else have any comments? Okay, this time we do have a motion and a second. We'll ask for a roll call, please.
Vice President Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean. Aye. Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor May.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Eric. Next on our agenda is new business. Our first item under new business is ordinance 2022-42. This is titled an introduction. This is approving a major change to the plan unit development concept plan for Right Cycle Estates that increases the number of planned single-family homes. So at this time, I will turn the floor over to our city manager.
Thank you, sir. Just for some historical context for our viewers, the matter pertains to Right Cycle Estates. Right Cycle Estates PUD was established in 1995 and projected to be a walkable mixed-use community consisting of a range of housing types and uses. While meaningful development occurred, significant portion of the development or of the developable land never built out. More recently, with the strong local housing market, the new owner of the development requested and council subsequently approved a major PUD change in March of this year. That was ordinance 2022-06. That converted the commercially zoned parcels on Right Cycle Boulevard to single-family home lots and reconfigured other planned residential lots south of Tandem Drive's current terminus. That PUD change resulted in a net increase of 6 residential lots and an elimination of 10 commercially zoned acres. The Planning and Zoning Commission then approved a final plat for Section 14 of Right Cycle Estates in August. However, the developer withdrew this plat from consideration before it advanced to City Council for action due to what he described as higher than anticipated construction cost estimates. In light of this, the developer has reevaluated and would like to be able to increase the lot density to generate expanded sales revenue in order to offset the inflation of construction costs. The proposal would call for an increase of 10 lots to the remaining phases. This would be accomplished by reconfiguring and narrowing previously approved lots. This would not result in changes to the street layout, just the lot configuration over the prior. The additional 10 lots would increase the overall density of the residential portion of Right Cycle Estates from 2.08 acres, units per acre, I should say, to 2.11 units per acre. Planning staff analysis of the proposal was conducted and found that it met regulatory requirements currently on our books. Review of some of the implications is fairly well detailed in your agenda report. Public hearing on the matter was conducted with the Planning and Zoning Commission on October 6th, and subsequently vote of the Commission was in favor of recommending the change for approval. The ordinance as presented this evening is provided with the recommendation that you take it into consideration. So we are looking for an introduction this evening for you to consider the matter.
All right, thank you, Mr. Merriman, appreciate that. So at this time, we did have some questions that came up from residents on the floor. Do you want to answer those now? Try to answer those at the end? And Mr. Forstner, maybe you weren't
Do you, Brian, have some
here.
specific answers
There
to
were
some
some
of those
questions,
concerns?
and pardon me if I missed some, but and for the integrity of the meeting here, I'm going to try to bring some of these up. Mostly what I heard from at least 3 people was concern of the common area maintenance of that, and the overgrowth there. One suggestion was if the city could take ownership of that. I don't know if you want to mention that. And they mentioned that the city owns the pond. So I'll let you speak on that. And then another question was, since there is no HOA and only a neighborhood association, this new development would force an HOA, if I understood that from planning and zoning. Is that correct?
Okay, well, so let me go through. The pond is part of Right Cycle Park, which is owned by the city. The common area that people are referring to, there really isn't technically a common area. The landscaped signs that you see are on privately owned lots. They are in landscape easements, but there is really no one in the covenants appointed to maintain that other than the property owner, and the property owner is the developer right now.
Okay.
So the developer is solely responsible for maintaining that. It is true that our codes we do not have codes that have specific maintenance requirements for landscaping beyond just, blighted shrubs and dangerous trees and shrubs and weeds and grass that you see 10 inches tall. We don't have requirements that they have to put a certain type of perennial in, or they have to mulch it, or
Could you
things
speak
like
up,
that.
please, a little bit?
We don't have specific requirements that the developer has to mulch or put in perennials, or we don't have those types of requirements in our code.
So Brian, this is common through the rest of the city?
This is citywide.
Right, okay, would apply to that particular lot, which is owned by an individual who is the developer, right?
Yeah, and typically, when you have a newer subdivisions typically have actual common areas, which is land that is owned by the homeowners association. The homeowners association is then responsible for maintaining that and collects fees from the residents. You don't have that here. You have a lot that's owned by the developer, and there are no covenants and there is no HOA in place to require maintenance of that. Now, as to, you made a comment about create the new sections, the future sections of the subdivision when they are platted. Yes, we will require a homeowners association be created. However, that homeowners association is only going to have purview over that new section. They're not going to have anything to do with the existing neighborhoods in Right Cycle Estates. And they won't have any power over that. They won't have an ability to control the entrance because those are on separately owned parcels. So that HOA will just deal with that section, that new section of that subdivision. There were some comments about the density, and I think just to put that in perspective, the increase in density is only 0.03 units per acre for the development overall. The new lots are mostly going to be 65 feet wide. A lot of the existing patio home lots are in the 40 to 50 foot wide range, so it's really, I wouldn't say it's going to be bringing a high density environment to the neighborhood. It's really going to be a single family development that's comparable to what you see in like the medium sized lots in the medium and small sized lots in Right Cycle Estates. Did I address the questions? Or
Yeah, so I guess a question, and I'll ask this, so I'm kind of confused. So the complaint of the common area is the signage area. So who owns that?
The developer.
And is that the same developer that's applying for the PUD change?
Yes.
It is, okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay, not at this time, sir, I'm so sorry.
And also, I would point out too that the ongoing maintenance is a separate issue from what's before you currently. What's before you currently is consideration of amendment to the PUD plan, which is not, so current maintenance activities are not really, shouldn't be part of the consideration when you're deciding whether to approve that. At least that's what I would advise.
All right, thank you. All right, other council members, sure.
So the developer owns a lot that happens to have signage.
That's correct.
For the development, but that's his private property. The sign and the lot are his private property. They're not common property of the development.
That's correct.
And like you said, we have some generalized maintenance requirements on the book for the entire city in terms of maintaining appearance to a general sense, right? In terms of mowing your grass, not having dangerous, limbs or dead trees or things like that. But we don't have any requirements on signage maintenance in this flavor of thing. I mean, there may be some other things, but
yeah, if the sign itself falls into disrepair, we could do something about that, require repairs, but it's not. I think the issue here is that the flower beds are not being maintained. There's weeds growing in the flower beds, and I understand that it doesn't look good, but our code doesn't really address that.
All right, other questions?
think one of the other big concerns, Brian, and correct me if I'm wrong, so a lot of the common areas, which they might be considering the fields that have yet to be developed, I think the previous contractor, previous owner, he used to mow them quite frequently compared to now, where our code allows twice a year, so many feet off that they're supposed to.
Yeah, we require a 50-foot setback from the edges. This is for properties more than 10,000 square feet in size.
Which this applies.
Yeah, so we require regular mowing of 50-foot setback, so that means never can be more than 10 inches. For the remainder of the lot, it's just twice a year. So,
right. And so like
unfortunately, and you are correct, the previous owner did mow more frequently, and the current owner does not.
Doing bare minimum.
But they're still complying with our code. And in some cases, there are some property owners that are mowing beyond their property lines and actually taking care of part of the developer's property as well. And that's actually helping him meet the requirements too.
Right. Yes, sir.
So, Brian, if someone wanted to get the actual language of the current PUD, how would they obtain that?
And when you say language, what do you mean? Because are you talking about covenants or are you talking about stuff that's enforced by the city?
Covenants.
Covenants, they go through the recorder's office. You can actually go on Greene County GIS's website, the property search. And if you look up a property, you can click on the plat and that'll load up the covenants and the drawings for that section.
As well, okay.
Yeah, and there are some covenants, however, there's not a homeowners association set up to enforce them.
Enforce the covenants.
So it's pretty much on each individual property owner for themselves to decide whether they want to take action to enforce if there's a violation.
And then with the original PUD, were the streets laid out in the original plan? Plot plan? Are the streets that we've got here in Exhibit A, are those consistent with the original street layout of the original plot plan?
Well, if you mean original, that's going back to 1995, and there's been a lot of changes since then. So I would say no to that. But the street layout as proposed now is quite similar to the layout that has been in place since, well, the 12 years that I've been working here.
Okay.
At least.
And so this latest proposal or iteration doesn't modify the street layout.
Does not modify
but
the street layout at
adds
all.
10 additional lots.
That's correct.
Across the entire number of lots that are proposed to be built. Is that correct?
Yeah, in all the remaining sections.
Right. And how many lots is that? Do you have a sense of that total?
It is in the range of 200 and something, but I don't have that in front of me, but I can certainly get that to you.
Okay.
But again, I mean, for perspective, the overall approved density for the neighborhood under the current plan is 2.08 units per acre.
Right.
And under this proposal, that would increase to 2.11 units per acre. Right. So it's, and the 10 lots being added are spread out among several blocks. There are several of the blocks, the future extension of Tandem and streets parallel to that. You're seeing 1 to 2 lots added per block. These are pretty long blocks.
Right.
So, and then the reconfiguration of lots on Rice Cycle Boulevard is just going to be a matter of homes facing different directions than what they are now. And you'll see in my report that that's actually something that I support.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
All right, thank you, Mr. Forster. Any other questions for city planner? Any questions for city manager?
I just want to state something before this gets introduced. I think that this is an issue of homeowners not being, we need to get a hold of the developer. You know, I mean, you guys need to call, knock on his door, send him letters to let him know.
We've met with him multiple times.
And let him know, hey, we don't want this here. We want you to be, we're gonna hold you accountable to maintain your common areas. And we wanna see 2 or 3, 4 times a year mowing the common areas, because really they're holding to our code. Unless our code changes, there's nothing that we can do. You know what I mean? When it comes to the common areas of maintaining that stuff.
All right, thank you very much. So at this time, under ordinance 2022-42, we're seeking an introduction. Would anyone care to do that?
I'll introduce.
All right, introduced by Councilman Branham. Our next item under new business is Resolution 2022-000. This is awarding the bid and authorizing execution of a contract with United Survey Incorporated for the 2022 sewer pipeline rehabilitation Wilberforce area project. So at this time, I'll turn the floor back over to Mr. Merriman.
Thank you, sir. City Council previously authorized acceptance of a grant totaling $562,500 through the state of Ohio for slip lining of the Wilberforce area sanitary sewer system. This grant amount paired with a local match requirement of $187,500, providing a total available with that match of $750,000 for the project, which pursuant to the state's expectations would be carried out as soon as practical. Our engineering staff subsequently prepared and advertised an RFP for contractual services for this project. On September 29th, the city opened a total of 6 bids for provision of services for the project. Upon a review, all 6 bids exceeded the engineer's estimate. However, Ohio law does allow for acceptance of a bid that exceeds the estimate, provided such bid does not go over 10% in exceedance, and that funding is available for any overage expense. These conditions are met in this particular case in a bid received from United Survey Incorporated at a total of $822,475. The gap funding is available in the existing sewer budget line. Additionally, engineering staff has conducted a review of prior work of this firm that they've successfully completed in municipalities including the cities of Butler, Arlington, and Akron, among other locations around the state. Given these factors, our staff can find no reason to withhold the award of bid. And so we are recommending that council vote to approve the award and allow for execution of a contract with United Survey as stipulated, which will allow for us to utilize this grant and move forward with this slip lining project.
All right, thanks, Mr. Merriman. Any questions for City Manager? All right, no questions there. So at this time, I will seek a motion to authorize the award of the bid and execution of the contract. Moved by Councilman Scrivens.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by the mayor. Further questions?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
Mr. City Manager, in conjunction with this project now, is the Country Club Drive going to be repaid in conjunction with this?
Yeah, not in conjunction, but that is another project that we've been awarded Issue 2 grant monies. We've discussed with our Public Service and Utilities Committee this evening that it's a costly project, but a very much needed project. That'll consist of rehabilitation and upsizing of the existing water line down Country Club, and then resurfacing of that entire roadway. So that area of our community, there from Country Club over into the Wilberforce area, we do have some substantial utility needs. A lot of those utility systems are very aged. So through several of these grant programs, we'll be able to make investments to rehab that area.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Scrivens. Any other questions for the city manager? All right. So we have a motion and a second. I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Vice President Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean. Aye. Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor May.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next on our agenda, Resolution 2022-PPP. This is authorizing acceptance of the Federal Victims of Crime Act, known as VOCA, and the State Victims Assistance Act, SVAA, grant for 2023. Ms. Fisher.
Hello. This is a resolution. We come to council every year asking that you accept the federal and state funding that we receive for our victim advocate program. In the last 3 years, I've had to come to you and tell you that our funding has been cut. It was cut in 2019, it was cut in 2020, and it was cut in 2021. I'm happy to report for the first time, we did not see any reduction in funding. We are receiving the exact same amount that we received last year. What we're hearing through the grapevine, the federal government is sitting on over $1 billion in the Victim Advocate Program funds that they have. So we're hoping we're going to see the funding increase back to 2019 levels. The amount that we're getting for 2023 is $75,148 in federal funding. In state funding, we were awarded $4,145,000. Again, this money all goes for our Victim Advocate Program. When the voters in Ohio enacted Marsy's Law, it became part of the state constitution. There are certain services that we are required constitutionally to provide, and these grants help fund our Victim Advocate Department in providing those services. So we would ask that council pass this resolution and authorize acceptance of both the federal and state funding for our Victim Advocate Program.
Thank you. Can you give an example of like what these funds would be used for as far as if in the fund? Give me an example of what that would be spent on.
The federal fund helps pay for the salaries of the advocates. The state fund we use for cell phones for our after-hour and on-call. Victim advocates, we provide our services 24/7. We have after-hour on-call all the time, so it's a 24/7 operation. So we use the state funds for cell phone. We use the funds for printing, office supplies, every victim that we get. And it's not just victims of violent crimes. If your house is vandalized, if you're stolen, if someone steals something from you, we provide services to those victims as well. So that pays for printing when we send out letters. We also have a small emergency fund in cases where we do have, in particular, victims of domestic violence that maybe we need to get out of the situation they're in. We maintain an emergency fund that we can get locks changed for them if that needs to happen. If we need to get them clothes, food, get them a hotel room for the night, just to get them out of danger. So we do use the state funds for that to maintain a small emergency fund as well. But it just helps supplement the services, the salaries. We have one program supervisor and 2 advocates. All 3 of those provide services to the victims through our court. And then we have a part-time on-call who takes the after-hour calls and on weekends. So this helps fund 3 full-time and 1 part-time position.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Any questions for the law director? All right. This time I'll seek a motion to accept the federal victims grant.
So moved.
Moved by the mayor. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilman Dean. Thank you. There's no other questions. I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Vice President Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Griffin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. A couple more items here. Our next item is Resolution 2022-QQ. This is authorizing the 2023 Employee Insurance Program. So at this time, I'll turn the floor over to our city manager.
Thank you, sir. A lot of information in your agenda report, so I'll make sure I cover that, so please indulge me a little. As a long-held practice, the city does utilize a collaborative employee insurance committee. This is comprised of executive leadership from our staff, as well as representatives from our bargaining units, as well as our non-union staff. The committee monitors insurance trends. They annually make recommendations to the appointed officials for adjustments to rates and program specifics for our employee health, vision, and dental insurance programs. Through the committee, the city has been very actually aggressive in pursuing unique approaches to the provision of insurance benefits so that we can keep the city's costs down, their costs down, and still provide a good program for our employees. Last year, the committee recommended a change and a migration to the Jefferson Health Plan for health insurance. This is a shared risk public entity pool. Participation in Jefferson Health provides the dual opportunities for us to really customize our insurance program, but benefit from a much larger pool where we don't see significant peaks and valleys in our rate renewals. And so we projected that that would be very helpful in reducing cost. And as you can see, in the agenda report, that is the case this year. They have come back with a proposal for a renewal 5% increase over current. That's opposed to a health insurance trend, which this year is projected to be 15% for increase. So we're very, very happy for a very minimal renewal there. So again, we feel like this approach with Jefferson Health is really paying off and it's providing a good benefit. We've detailed in your agenda report the individual employee, employee plus spouse, and family rates, and those numbers are all there. Regarding vision, dental, and life insurance renewals, we have some good news there as well. The vision plan renewal with National Vision Administrators presents a 0% increase with a 4-year rate guaranteed, starting in plan year 23. Superior Dental is offering renewal with a 0% increase for plan year 23. And the UHC Group Life Insurance is in the 3rd year of a 3-year rate guarantee with a 6.67% premium reduction for a portion of that term. So again, good numbers coming back after some rough years with these programs. The committee's recommending renewal of all 3 of these stipulated in the agenda report. The committee is also recommending continuation of our teledoc medical consultation service with the fees in the report. Again, this is a service that we provide to employees where they can call into a digital doctor as opposed to paying a full office visit where we pay as an organization a share thereof. So we've saved some money on this and provided a better service to our employees so they can seek access to care from the comfort of their home. Finally, we are recommending continuation with Enrollment Management Service, who coordinates our opt-out program. They provide a customized service working with each employee and their family to determine the best coverage, be that coverage through the city, through another employer. If they're a veteran, there are services available. They're Medicaid, Medicare certified, so they can provide services and assistance there. So while that is a cost-saving measure for the city, it's also an employment quality factor because it's providing a customized service for our employees. So we are recommending continuation of that arrangement with EMS as well as continuing our opt-out program. And again, all of those rates have been provided in your agenda report. So staff is recommending the appointed officials based on the recommendation from the Insurance Committee, approval of Resolution 2022 QQQ, which would authorize execution of these various agreements and set in place those provisions for the benefits for this will be for calendar year 2023.
All right, thank you. Any questions for City Manager regarding the healthcare? All right, thank you for your negotiations, your work on this project. So at this time, we'll seek a motion to approve the insurance program.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Dean. Do we have a second?
I can second.
Seconded by the mayor. If there's no other questions, we'll get a roll call, please.
Vice President Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Scriven.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Brand.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mayhew.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We have one other item not listed on our agenda tonight. I did receive a memo regarding Public Service and Utilities Committee, which met at 4 o'clock today. So that is chaired by Vice President Urschel. So at this time, I'll turn the floor over to Vice President for his presentation.
Great. So, just for folks in the audience, part of our structure as the councils, we have a number of committees that are composed of 3 council members and staff that we meet and have a lot more detailed discussion on items that precedes motions or activities here on the council. And this one was specifically the Public Service Utilities Committee. And I'll just mention that a couple of other items just for the rest of the council that we'll be bringing up at a later date is we're going to have some legislation coming to help us on the utilities broadband right away to give us better control over utilities and broadband providers and how they may be trying to get easements or construction in our roads and streets and those types of things. That'll be coming at a future date. We also went over utility rates for water, sewer, trash, and the sanitation. And we'll be coming back to council with some recommendations on that probably in January, in the January timeframe for that. We also had some discussions on the lighting districts and folks in the audience. Probably about 95% of the lights in the city are maintained by a company out of Cincinnati.
It's Miami Valley Lighting.
Miami Valley Lighting out of Cincinnati. But we do have a few lighting districts that the city maintains, and that's specifically on 2nd and 3rd Street, Main Street here, down by the Bike Hub. And we've had a number of folks from the community have expressed some concern about the facts that some of these aren't being maintained very well. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we can't purchase the parts of those types of things. So we had some discussion about going to a universal lighting under Miami Valley Lighting. We'll be bringing that back to council. And we've also approved a number of lighting districts in some of the newer subdivisions, and we had some good discussion about probably extending that out to the entire city and having a citywide lighting district, but we'll be bringing that to council for further discussion in the future. We also went over and Councilman Scrivens looked at the street plans for 2023 and 2024, and as part of the 2023 budget, some of these items are already in there. We've got probably about the largest street budget, about $5.5 million there that are being proposed to us. And I know the rest of your council members got a copy of the proposed budget. The capital improvement program is incorporated in part of that budget as well too. So you'll see the discussions on that. But we talked a lot about some needs for some of we talked about as a council setting aside the $1.2 million for street improvements. And coming out of this discussion, there's probably about 1.1 million that we're gonna have some recommendations specifically to spend in this next year supporting these items. And Country Club is one of those streets as well with the water projects. So that'll be coming back to the council as part of the overall budget discussion. But one item we want to bring up for tonight was parks reinvestment. And we've had a lot of discussion over the last 2 years, or year and a half, about Lexington Park and some improvements there. We approved some items with that, and one of the things that the staff asked is that as we looked at some additional improvements in Lexington Park, that we could have a more comprehensive list across all of our parks, and also look to see if there were common items that would that should be done, and from an economy of scale perspective across all the parks, instead of just purchasing items for one specific park and then having to go back and negotiate the purchase of those items for other ones at a later date. So staff did a great job, and this is what you have ahead of you right now, is their proposals across 9 of our public parks. And these were broken out in 2 tiers. Tier 1 was about $98,000, and that hit four of our major parks at around $20,000 to $25,000 each. But a lot of common items there were rehabilitation of the basketball courts with the basketball hoops, water fountains, either repair or installation, providing trash cans at the parks, and then taking care of some of the sealing of the parking lots at a number of those parks as well too. And then in addition to that, there was a second tier, it's called Tier 2, that looked at 5 of our other parks that had some of those items going on in each of those parks, but as needed. But very, very common theme across those were park benches, water fountains, sealing and striping of the basketball courts and putting in the backboards and the hoops, trash cans, and in a lot of parks, park signs, because many of our parks don't even have a park sign that identifies that as a city park, and any of the park rules as well for those parks. So I would say that this was enthusiastically endorsed by our 3 council members, Councilman Scrivens, Councilman Brano, and myself. And I just want to commend the staff on looking at this across all of our parks. These are what I would call very tactical level of things. It's not really adding any new major amenities to any of our parks, but it's really just maintenance of existing items. We're looking at the city's planning document, the X plan, and that's going through revision right now, called the next plan. And so that work will be making recommendations for major improvements or modifications to the park. That's not what's being covered here. This is really just maintenance of existing items in those parks. So the total amount of this was about $150,000 across those 9 parks. The staff recommended that we could go about this in one of 2 ways. We could either put forward a new ordinance, and we talked about taking $600,000 of the ARPA money and putting those towards community enhancements, improvements, and quality of life types items, and we could target that towards that. But the staff also felt that due to the long lead time frame on some of these items, that getting approval quickly would help them to get that going, so that we could have these things purchased and installed by hopefully by May of next year, prior to the parks being open. So an alternate recommendation that they had was that we would, we have about $250,000 in the current budget targeted towards one specific park, Shawnee Park, towards the phase 2 improvements. We did not execute that in this year, but those funds exist in the budget. And so the staff's recommendation was that we allocate $150,000 of that, since it's already in the budget, and it would be a procedural motion on the part of the council, which we could do tonight, and approve that and have those funds available so that they could go ahead and do the long lead items. And then we could go ahead and address the Shawnee Park improvements in the 2023 budget, which we're going to have to do anyways at that point. And if we need to draw on the ARPA funds as part of that, we could do that as well too. But either way, since we have not executed that, we are going to have to, they don't roll over into 2023. We'll have to address that in the 2023 budget at that time.
So you're saying we would replenish those funds that are designed for that we had earmarked for phase 2 in the 2023
Right, well, we
budget?
need, yeah, and we need to have a serious discussion. Are we planning on executing
I
that?
understand, but
Right,
I'm saying
right.
that is what you're
Yes.
proposing at this point.
Yes, yep.
All right, thank you very much.
So, and I'll turn it over to city manager. Any additional comments?
Yeah, just to clarify that if approved, the intent would be that this $150,000 is of that $600,000, that $600,000 that council talked about for quality of life programming. And again, just to be clear with what Councilman Urschel said, all we're really needing this evening is a procedural motion which gives documentation into the record that you want to repurpose those already budget funds for these new purposes. To your point, Mayor, nothing prohibits the council from approving those funds in the new budget for pursuit of that playground phase 2 for next year. But this would allow us to get a lot of these projects underway through the procurement process. These drinking fountains, for example, I think the lead time I was told is 3 to 4 months. So if we ordered those now, we would have them in time for installation prior to the season next year.
And based on what is being said, at this point, staff does agree with us.
Yeah, we think this is a good investment across our entire system. It carries out some of the plans that we've talked about for Lexington Park and extends some similar improvements to amenities to other parks. I think as Councilwoman Urschel talked about, this is really a tactical level type of activity. I think there's a broader conversation about the long-term needs at our parks. Most of our parks need new playground equipment and amenities that meet the needs of kids and families today. So that's a bigger conversation as part of that next plan process. But this is a great use of the ARPA dollars and something that every neighborhood in our community that has these community parks can gain some enjoyment and benefit from.
Thank you.
And the only item I'd mention is we did not include, staff did not recommend Ridgeberry and Parnell, because we need to have some broader discussions about the future of both of those parks, right, at this time.
And Xenia Station.
Right, and since we've done a number of improvements at Xenia Station, Shawnee, most recently, there's one addition is getting the drinking fountain repaired at the pavilion at Shawnee Park, right? So, Councilman Brandon?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I just want to
Sure.
mention, because we've got so many individuals from Right Cycle. Right Cycle Parks list was reseal striped parking lot, 2 contemporary trash cans, and a new park sign for the pond area out there.
Okay, thank you. So I do have a question. So, we don't have signage listed under Lexington Park. Is that already
It's
been
in
approved?
It's already included
It
in,
was already
in the appropriation did previously, yep.
Got
It's
it.
been installed as well, right?
Oh, good. Okay, thank you. And does that take care of the fencing too around the basketball court? Oh, okay. Okay, great. All right, so thank you, Councilman Urschel, for that report. Would you like to make that motion?
Sure, so I'd like to make a procedural motion that we take the $149,450 of already appropriated funds for the Shawnee Park and repurpose those towards the 9 parks listed here in the Tier 1 and Tier 2 of this public service memorandum.
Thank you, seconded by Councilman Scrivens. Any other discussion?
Thank you for this information, it's very helpful.
Okay. All right. City Clerk, did you get that? Okay. All right, this time I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Vice President Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean. Aye. Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye. Thank you. Next is appointed officials reports. I'll start with the law director.
I'm not sure you're gonna be able to hear me.
Sorry.
Did you break your microphone?
I did come on
Okay,
microphone.
we'll just wait 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
2 minutes?
We're kind of clearing out here. Yeah.
If please,
Yeah.
quit talking. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, go ahead.
One thing I wanted to bring up tonight, just a reminder to everyone, we have our last batch of charter amendments. They will be on the ballot next week.
Right.
We have information about those amendments posted on the city's website. Any of our residents have any questions about those ballot amendments, they're welcome to reach out to me, the city manager, the city clerk, anyone here in the city, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. One other thing I wanted to make you aware of, you passed the final part of the charter, of the administrative code amendments. We now have public safety, all the departments under the city manager, finance, and law. Those will all go into effect on January 1. We will be planning, the one department we did not tackle this year was public service, the Department of Public Service. So we will be coming back to you with that after the first of the year. There's some amendments that need to be made to our utility chapter as well that kind of play together. The one thing that we did not have done, if Legislative Review Committee will remember, was the funds chapter. That has been completed. We reviewed that with Council's Finance Committee yesterday at their meeting. So we will be presenting that 251. It goes in the Finance Department section. We will be presenting that to Council at your next meeting on the 10th. And hopefully that will be the last 2 big packets I have for you to read this year.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the law director tonight?
And go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Thank you for wearing that shirt. All right, so if we don't have anything for Ms. Fisher, thank you for that report tonight. We'll move on to Mr. Duke, our finance director for City of Xenia.
I have nothing for you this evening, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Duke?
Lots of questions about the font and the budget, but we're not gonna bring it up.
Yeah. Can you show everyone, can you lift up your annual budget? Yeah, so, thanks Cody. If you can get that on camera, that's pretty comprehensive annual budget. Thank you so much for the work that is involved in that. That was presented to us. We're still working on that, and we'll vote on that later. But thank you for all the efforts put into that. It's very good.
Just as a note, and the city manager may touch on this, but those documents are available on our website on our budget and finance page. So if anyone would like to view the budget materials that we're giving to council, they are available on our website.
All right, thank you, Mr. Duke. Anyone have a question for him?
Oh,
All right.
President Smith, I apologize. One thing I forgot to bring up with you, and I'll get with the city planner tomorrow about this, but while the Right Cycle Estate folks were here, I did some research on the Ohio Secretary of State's website. There had been an owners association. It was formed in 2004 and was canceled in 2018. They do currently have a neighbors association.
Right.
So they do have a legal entity that has been filed. It says the purpose of the corporation is to help the residents manage the enforcement of and compliance with restrictions and covenants that are on the record plan. So they do have a valid legal existing organization. It is possible that that organization, it could own that land that they refer to as a common area that is actually private property at this time. I don't know if that's ever been discussed. But it's something I can discuss with the city planner to see if that's something that they would be interested in.
All right, very good. Thank you very much for that. So while we're back to you, so I'll mention that the phone calls that we got this week regarding the scooters. Okay, so if you're not aware, there are scooters that you can rent in town. These are not owned by the city. Our relationship is contractual with Bird.
Correct.
That the city has no liability on these. However, there are issues with, we think the GPS is malfunctioning in possibly some of these units. They've been left at various locations for various days. So someone from the city is going to reach out to Bird. I believe that's going to be Brian Forstner, and talk to them about a little better scope of picking these up. I guess they're being left for several days and weeks. So.
And we had a little email exchange today, and I'll let Brian address it more.
Okay,
but
thank you.
We talked about, and one thing we want the public to know, there is a contact us button at the bottom of the city's website. You can always click on that if you're having a problem, if there's a scooter left in your yard or it's blocking your sidewalk. Click on that contact us, send us a message. It goes to multiple people here at the city, and that way we can make sure it's taken care of.
Yeah, in fact, I think a number of those we got complaints on have since been collected.
Good.
And I know, Councilman Smith, you expressed that they had some frustration getting hold of folks in our office this week. Unfortunately, without giving too much information on, we had a number of employees pretty sick,
right.
read COVID, so we had a little bit of an outbreak in the building this week, so a number of people out. So apologize for the inconvenience, but again, those should have been picked up as of, I think, yesterday. So.
All right, thank you very much.
Are these scooters all piled in front of Mayor Mays' house?
I did tell them they could drop it at my house if needed. I handle it from there.
Was it her calling?
That's right.
These are all dead.
all-
What are y'all charged for?
Charging another scooter.
It's because Mayor Mays was riding them all night. She used the batteries up in all of them, so.
All right, so
Well,
with
you know, it's
that,
pretty interesting. We were in Portugal for 2.5 weeks, and there are Bird scooters all over the place. The real interesting thing is in Portugal, all the streets are cobblestones. So that's all you saw when people were riding there.
Just like
But
East Third
they're,
Street.
they're very big in Europe as well.
Just like these things.
all right, thank you. All right, that leads right into city manager.
Absolutely. Well, my thunder was stolen in a little bit. We have provided to council, as required, copies of your now integrated 5-year CIP and budget pursuant to the charter changes approved by our voters. We've integrated the process and timeline. You will note moving forward that the process is a little different. We have some enhancements in terms of public hearing process that are integrated into the new charter language, so you'll see the process a little bit different moving forward. Had a long meeting with the Budget and Finance Committee yesterday, so this is another long evening for a couple of you, and I apologize for that. But again, I want to thank Jared Holloway in our office and the finance folks. They put in many hours working with our department heads to put together a very austere budget, but enough to give good quality services to our community, so I want to thank them. Also a reminder, folks, Monday, October 31st is our trick-or-treating here in the city of Xenia. That's from 6 to 8 p.m. So first and foremost, we want to stress safety. Please watch out for the kids and families that'll be out Monday night. The weather right now is looking like morning showers tapering in the afternoon. Consistent with other communities in our region, we would go rain or shine unless it's inclement weather, severe weather, which we would utilize media partners and social media to get word out if we had to make a change. So please, if needed, take an umbrella if you have to, but go out and enjoy that opportunity. Also, another sign of the season, we are prepared to ramp up our leaf collection program. We published on our website and on social media information on that. What I can tell you is that we have the city split up into 2 zones, a northern zone and a southern zone. We have collection dates beginning November 7th through the 10th, excluding Veterans Day on the 11th for the northern portion in Zone 1, and November 14th to 18th for Zone 2. We'll do a second round of collections for Zone 1, November 28th to December 2nd for the northern half of the city, and Zone 2, that second collection's December 5th to December 9th. Please go online and view where that map is. It's roughly breaking at Main Street, north and south for those zones. So please make sure that you follow the instructions on that. We'll get all the leaves picked up And I think that's all I have this evening. Just a reminder, we do need a brief executive session afterward for sale or purchase of property.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone have anything for city manager? Other than go Bucks,
Go
right?
Bucks.
All right, very good. All right, so at this time we'll have council comments and reports. I'll start to my left with Councilwoman Dean.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks, thank you. Councilman Scrivens.
Thank you, Mr. President. Start off on a somber note. Last Monday, offering condolences here. Last Monday, I attended the homegoing funeral celebration of Miss Althea Coffey Paris. Been knowing her since she was born into the world. I knew the whole family, and now there's just one person out of that family who's left. So we want to wish that family our love and our deepest sympathy. Also, that was last Monday. This Monday, condolences to the sister of former Mayor Marsha Bayless. Her sister Marilyn Bayless Hatcher was funeralized Monday at the Corinthian Baptist Church here in Dayton. Today, Mrs. Gladys Johnson, she was funeralized at Design Baptist Church here in Xenia, 565 East Main Street. You may know her son, Harvey Johnson Jr. He's been a regular here for a few years. Tomorrow, Mrs. Constant Miller, she's out of Wilberforce, and her son was James Soapy Miller. He was a star basketball player in my era back when I had hair, and we still have to induct him in the Xenia Athletic Hall of Fame. And then sadly, Saturday, condolences to the family. Miss Trudy Jones used to sell real estate with her at the old Hearth Realty and Coldwell Banker. She's the wife of deceased Larry Jones, and his brother Tim Jones was my high school classmate. So all of those who've gone on to their final reward, we offer our sympathy and our deepest condolences. Also, Mr. President, I had the chance last week, Mr. Don Hollister, he's a Yellow Springs Township trustee, Miami Township trustee, and he and the fire chief in Yellow Springs, they took me through a tour of their fire department. They have a 5-bay building and a nice common area, and then they have facilities for male and females. And it was just a good experience to see how they spent $5 million and got a serious building put up. And I appreciate them for taking the time to show me around. I want to compliment the city manager and all the team who negotiated the health insurance contracts. That's a big grip out of your pocketbook. And for them to come up with an arrangement where we're only getting out of 5 additional %, I think we got out very good with that. So compliments to whoever negotiated that agreement. Also, for those of you who have not voted early, we encourage you to get out and exercise your right to vote. A lot of people around the world don't have that right, and we get the right before the actual election day. So before the election day, if you don't want to vote early, for sure vote on election day. And then finally, Mr. President, I want to congratulate the Bellbrook Golden Eagles, the Cedarville Indians, and the Greenview Rams, along with our own Xenia Buccaneers. They all turned in performances this year where they're playoff bound. And according to my arithmetic, if you win 6 games, you come home with the state championship. 5 games, you come home with no cigar. 4 games is regional, 3 games is the district. Xenia is hosting the first, for the first time. They've been in the playoffs 3 other occasions, but they had to play away. This time they're playing at home, and if they win this Friday, they'll be playing at home again next Friday. So we want to congratulate Coach Maurice Harden and his coaching staff. He's affectionately known by his team and by the assistant coaches as Coach Mo, and we'll be having an assembly, I'm told, tomorrow at the Xenia High School, assembly/pep rally. And I think our own Honorable Sarah J. Mays, the mayor, will be one of the speakers. So we look forward to that. So at this point, we're going to say, are you proud to be a Buccaneer? And of course, the question is, and the answer is, yes, we are. So go Bucks. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Scrivens. What time's that, Pepper?
2 o'clock.
2. All right, Councilman Branham.
Just want to say go Bucks. Thanks to Xenia Community Schools for putting on a very good, highly attended trunk or treat the other night. I had never seen such an event before. I have to say I was probably the Debbie Downer dad that was like, holy cow, we're going to wait through that line. Overall, it was a great event, though. I've seen a lot of folks, seen a lot of people. Go Bucks, and also just want to state that sometimes we're faced with more difficult decisions. I feel like that tonight's PUD change introduction was there's two separate issues at hand tonight that I felt like was presented. But we were voting, or I was introducing one specific instance that was going to change, not a solution to their problem of lack of property management by their developer. So that's it for me.
All right, thanks, Councilman Branham. Councilman Dean?
Yeah, I don't have anything that was.
All right, thank you, sir.
Go Bucks.
All right, Mayor Mays.
Thank you. A couple things to mention. Attended the Embrace the Journey gala, which was in Dayton on the 14th, and that was put on by folks from Emerge, specifically highlighting their desire to create housing, education, life training skills for young men who are emancipating out of foster care. So an interesting evening highlighting what they're hoping to head towards. On the 15th, I was able to represent Xenia, the International Ball, so it was a very fun event with the Air Force Museum. On the 18th, had a meeting with the board I sit on with Impact Xenia, working with Living Well Clinic and doing some work here and trying to get some of these nonprofits and some of these resources, wraparound services under one roof. So it's hopefully heading in the right direction. On the 21st, the Christian Men's Fellowship had the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast. Thanks to those of you that were able to attend, I really appreciate it. It was about 300 people came out, and if you haven't been, it's worth going, and it's a lot of people coming out to support our community and really, I would say, not just to be there, but to pray for Xenia and beyond, and really care for our community well. That evening, Councilman Urschel and Councilman Scrivens, we had the chance to go to Doug Adams Stadium at 11 o'clock at night, even though some of us had been up since 5 a.m. And to welcome back the team on their big win against Sydney. So it was a lot of fun. On the 26th, I had an opportunity to meet with Sandra Brasington, our liaison to the governor, and talk about a couple of issues that I think Xenia is facing, and working to get some answers on a few things that I know that are on our list. So had to cancel a few things, had a little one in the hospital for a few days, but very thankful that she's out. And a lot of people here in the city reached out and supported us through that, and in our church as well. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor Williams. Vice President Urschel.
Sure. One other item on our Public Service Utilities Committee, and I think speaking for that as well as our Budget and Finance Committee, that one of the items we feel like we've got to meet head on is our plan for our residential roads. And obviously we're doing a great job with our major thoroughfares here with the funding we have available and getting matching grants, and obviously, spending millions of dollars on those projects, but we've got hundreds of miles of residential roads that we just have not been able to address at this point. So more to come on that, but I would really encourage us as a council, as we look at our offsite in January, that we make this a principal focus of coming out of that meeting with our council strategy in terms of how we're going to move forward with that. And it's going to have some hard decisions on that, but the reality is, we talked about this, some of the roads, some of the residential roads in our community have not been revamped since they were installed. And I'm talking 30 plus years ago for many of those roads. And so kudos to our folks. We've almost doubled our road investment dollars with the state grants, which is a great thing. But there are no state grants for residential roads. Residential roads are our responsibility. There's no assistance from the county. There's no assistance from the federal government. There's no assistance from the state. It's all on us to do that. So more to come with that. I just mentioned for the game this Friday, we've had a great experience partnering with the informally with the school district on the parking over the last series of games, and we haven't had any issues with that, but this is going to be a major turnout Friday. So we've worked with the school district, just to let everybody know that the Xenia Town Square is going to be open for parking for the game, and the school will be running shuttle buses both before the game and afterwards. And I really encourage as many people as can to go down and park at the Xenia Town Square. There's tons of parking down there. It's well lit, and you can get down. You probably get down to the game a lot quicker than showing up 2 hours before and trying to find some parking around the field. So, and that will be true not only for this Friday night, but also because we're going to win Friday, so it'll be true for the following Friday night as well too. And the mayor's prayer breakfast was amazing, and it was just great to see folks from all walks of life in our city and the townships. We had mayors of some of our other communities come to be with us and just honor God. That's what it was all about, and a good way to spend our morning before we got going on with the rest of our day. And then I just, on a personal note, just like to mention that at Bridges of Hope, our adult shelter, we have a new executive director, Robert Adamson, who was the founder of One Bistro and was lately the chef out at AIA. And he's going to be working there full time with us now, 40 hours a week, and great connections with all the community around here, and great ideas for things for us to be doing. Also next week, we're going to be getting the formal occupancy from the county for our day hub, adding another 10,000 square feet to that facility, and opening up our daytime programming there as well. So we are really excited about that. And I guess I'd also say I just really have appreciated the partnership with the city this year in terms of identifying projects for our Saturday work group. Saturday we had 20 of 24 guests were out working, cleaning up the city, which was an amazing thing. And we had a number down at the Collier property, and the city's been down there already cleaning that up, and we've been participating in that as well. If you have not been down there at the bike hub, I'd encourage you to go. Get there at the bridge. You can finally see Shawnee Creek, and all the stuff is cleared off along the path. Pretty soon those buildings will be knocked down here, hopefully this fall. And I just mentioned that as we've been down there working, the folks in that neighborhood are so excited about us getting that revamped and revitalized, and it's gonna be a turning point for that whole part of town. So kudos to our maintenance guys who've been out working hard on that already, and good on us on the city staff for pursuing and make sure we got the grant from the state, and the city, I believe at this point, has ownership of the property.
As of today.
As of today, that's right. So we now own that and are going to get that cleared out. And then one other item, just to make sure that if you need to stay at the Ramada Inn, you've got till Monday night will be the last night that you can stay there, because as of November 1st, the city will be acquiring that property, and that will be part of our new town square redevelopment as well, too. And that's an exciting addition to the city as well, too. So I'm looking to stay that last night there.
That's a good idea. Yeah, we should party.
Once we own it, the next day, let's.
Well, the next day you want to go.
Yeah, we should have a party.
That's right. So,
All right.
that's all I got.
All right, very good. So we still have some more business to attend to. I'd like to thank those that are watching and thank the residents that were here tonight. First time in a long time, we had a packed house, great behavior, wonderful comments. We encourage you to attend city council meetings. There's always an opportunity under public comments to express your concerns to us, as well as email the city clerk. And so we are going to take just a 5-minute recess. Is that good? For restroom, and then we are going into an executive session. I'll make a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of sale of property per ORC 121.22. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by the mayor. Can I get a roll call?
Vice President Herschel?
Aye.
Councilman Scriven?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lee?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor May?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye. Do we plan on conducting business afterwards? Okay. So this will end this portion of the meeting, and we'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Go Bucks.